Hi everybody, it's Professor Diffley and welcome to part 2 of Module 2 video for the week. We're picking back up in the slideshow here at slide number 13, the elements of ethics. Again, so this is going to be clear. It talks about in the book, you need to use critical thinking, critical reasoning to really understand ethics and to dive into it. So a major element of ethics, excuse me, is the preeminence of reason. And what we're looking for, and this is true of most ethics here, is what we're trying to get is the universal perspective, the principle of universality. What we're saying here is that moral statements that apply in one situation must apply in all other that are relevant, that are relevantly similar. So, ethics and the moral rules we're trying to find should be able to apply to all sorts of similar situations. We're not looking for a rule that applies in situation A, and situation B is very, and situation A1. We want it to cover as many things as possible. These are things seen as objectively right or wrong by all. Again, these are often things like murder, stealing, that sort of thing there. What we're talking about here. Now, where do these universal principles come from? Because we often share them as societies or as cultures. Sometimes they come from religion, but they don't have to. They can come independent of that, of things we've decided. You're going to see there's a lot of it that does come from religion at times, and some of these ideas are shared by many, many religions. But again, they don't have to necessarily come from religion. They can, but it's not the only place we get these. Again, critical thinking, again, to come back to that, how important it is. What is critical thinking? Ability to evaluate viewpoints, facts, and behaviors objectively in order to assess the presentation of information or methods of arguments to establish a true worth. So again, critical thinking is using your brain, thinking about things, trying to question them, take them apart, and evaluate them. I'm sure you're all familiar with this. Let's just move along here. And you'll see the videos about how to have a moral discussion or ethical decisions. Again, they should be explained. You should support your claims and your reasons with reasons. And, we're using common standards here. These are the major ways to get to this. A couple other things. No difference between ethical problems and ethical dilemmas. An ethical problem raises the question, what is the right thing to do in a given situation? That's really what an ethical problem is. You have an issue. What is the right thing to do? An ethical dilemma, on the other hand, is where you have two or more relevant but contradictory ideas and ethical directives. So you're trying to pick which one. So you have a situation where seemingly two ethical ideas apply. You need to decide which one is right. That's what an ethical dilemma is. Again, so to repeat, an ethical problem is trying to figure out what the right thing to do is in a given situation, like where you have just one right and we're trying to find that one right answer. An ethical dilemma is where there seems to be two possible right answers. The dilemma is, which one do I pick? That's really the major difference here. And these ethical dilemmas arise when a practitioner of criminal justice is faced with two or more competing values, such as justice and equality, confidentiality, protecting life. These are very, very, difficult situations, right? We have to keep, information confidential, but sometimes we need to release information to protect life. So when is that the right way to go? And that's what we're talking about with dilemmas. Competing loyalties can create dilemmas here when conflicting groups make claims for the criminal justice professionals' loyalties. And the ethical dilemma here would be, an example of this is you have a duty to uphold the law, but you also, and that's, you have the loyalty to the job, to the police force or whatever you're working in. But what happens if you pull over a family mother or your parents or something like that? You owe loyalty to them, don't you? So which one do you pick? That's the dilemma, and we'll cover that stuff as we go on which is the right thing to do. Again, back, let's get to this, the moral relativism. This is going to be a big idea. This goes against the idea of universality. Moral relativism is the belief that morals can be different and none are better than the other. This is usually situational ethics is one way to look at this. Moral relativists say you need to look at every case and decide what to do. There are no universal moral standards, is what the relativists argue. That we cannot judge others. Decisions are made, based on certain facts. Common moral relativism is the idea: do not steal. Most people say you should not steal, and they would not steal. But then you give them the idea of, well, you're hungry, you're going hungry, you need to steal to survive and eat. Well, most people find it fine to steal in that case. That's moral relativism. It's relative to the situation you're in. We're going to see moral relativism is not really that helpful for criminal justice, because then you can't really apply laws, right? You'd be picking and choosing them. You're supposed to apply them equally. But that is a concept of moral relativism. An opposite of moral relativism is moral absolutism. That says there are absolute moral values and rules that apply everywhere on the planet, no matter who you are, what situation you're in. Moral relativism says, no, it depends. Take that even further. Cultural relativism is part of that. Is say what we see is wrong in our culture, culture A, others see as perfectly fine in culture B. So who's right? A moral absolutist would say, so if you're part of Group A, that moral absolutist would say Group A's is right. Doesn't matter where you are. A moral relativist would say you have to judge it by the standard of the culture. This is very open-minded. The drawback on this is really that it seems to excuse a lot of things, that we can allow things to happen that we wouldn't allow in our own culture, and we just turn a blind eye to it. Say, well, that's their culture, that's their morals, they can do whatever they want. Not everybody subscribes to that, say things are wrong, right? Killing people is wrong. Infanticide, that's one, right? In some cultures in the world, in history, female babies were often killed because they weren't viewed as valuable. In our society here in the United States, we would say that is wrong. A moral relativist might argue, well, it's okay for them to do it over there because that's what they value. They value male life over female life. So you can kind of see how this is a slippery slope, right? If we just start turning blind eyes and allow everything to go. But those are the arguments here, and you'll see more about this in the videos and things like that. Again, ethical relativism is very similar in this. What relativists are trying to do in many ways is to justify the way people behave rather than focusing on how they ought to behave, right? How we ought to behave is what we're supposed to do. Say we're supposed to do A, but we end up doing C, well, then we come up with ways to justify this or rationalize it. And you guys, I'm sure, know what I mean by this. As I'm sure people have experienced, people can justify just about anything if they really want to. And we're trying to avoid that. We're trying to find out the rules, how we ought to behave. That's what we're looking for. All right, well, that's really it from the slides. Again, most of this is also covered in the videos here. Make sure you watch these. And we'll start getting into more and more of these things as we go ahead and in deeper dives. So the last thing for today is, again, remember to watch all these videos. Again, most of them are pretty short, 2 minutes, minute and a half, that sort of thing. And then other things you have for this week is the discussion board is one of your assignments this week, and the journal. So remember, discussion boards can be found here in discussion boards. Your discussion for the week is really evaluating moral relativism is what it's going to be. Remember, you have to post your own main response, 500 words, and then you have to wait 12 hours, respond to a classmate, wait another 12 hours, respond to another classmate. So that is the discussion board. Again, if you don't make the 500 word count minimum, you will fail. So make sure you get it. You have all week to do that. And then you have the journals. The journals are a little bit more private. Again, this will become available in a bit. And it's your view on ethics is what I'm going for here. So what happens is once you click on it, you'll come to this. And it'll give you the instructions and the journal question topics. As you can see, instructions, journal question topics. And to create a journal, you just click on create a journal entry. Very important though, before you create a journal entry, for some reason, once you create the journal entry, the instructions and questions topics will go away. So a good way is either write these down or a copy and paste them to something else, so that this way you can have them when you're writing. So answer these. Again, here on the journals, you can be a little bit more open if you're worried about that sort of thing. Only I read these. No judgment in that. But yeah, really start to look at these. And we'll have these in certain weeks. And then again, the last thing you'll have is the exam, which it haven't posted it. Well, you can't see it. It's been posted. It's just not available yet. But it'll be Module 2, Chapter 1 quiz, and there'll be instructions for all that. All right, well, that is it. If you have any questions, let me know. Good luck with the week. I know you guys are going to do great. All right, bye.